Howdy y'all, welcome to Nerd Studio. We're out at the range today on a Winnie the Pooh worthy day. It's blustery. To do part 3 on how to choose a concealed carry handgun. Stay tuned. In the first video, we talked about accuracy sort of being the first consideration when making your choice of a concealed carry gun. And then in the second video, we talked about size and capacity and the caliber choices available. So today I want to finish up the series with some opinions on things like features, at least the ones I look for, modifying your gun, and then I promise to talk about things like off-body carry, sort of briefcase, that kind of thing. There are a mess of different features and operating mechanisms for handguns, way too many for me to cover exhaustively in this video. But what I want to try and do is hit the highlights, the things that I think affect the choice in concealed carry handgun the most. First thing I want to talk about are external safeties. Now, there's nothing wrong with an external safety. They provide an extra measure of protection from negligent discharges. That's their purpose. But there's a couple of reasons that I don't like them on my concealed carry guns, and I sort of wanted to go through that for you. First of all, let me say, if you have an external safety on your gun, you need to train with it until you never fail to manipulate it correctly. Disengaging the safety has to become muscle memory for you. It has to. Now, we've talked in these videos quite a bit about sort of the effects of adrenaline on the system, and really for anyone that doesn't experience combat regularly, the only way to overcome the effects of adrenaline is muscle memory. If you get in a gunfight, you need all the brain activity you can muster to concentrate on making the right choice to shoot or not shoot. Once you've made that decision, it's time to let the training take over and get the job done. If you have to think about disengaging the safety, there's just too high a chance that you might not do it and end up coming to room temperature, and that's not good. So you've got to train for it. The other reason I don't favor an external safety is it's redundant, really. All your modern firearms already have multiple passive safeties built in. They've got things like trigger safety, which is that little dingus you see on a Glock. M&P's got a slightly different version of it, but it basically keeps you from pulling the trigger unless that safety mechanism is engaged. You've got firing pin safeties that keep the firing pin from hitting the cartridge unless the trigger is pulled. You've got drop safeties that keep the gun from going off if you drop it. This really only requires you to do one thing to avoid a negligent discharge. Don't pull the trigger until you're ready to shoot. That's really all you got to do. When you carry your gun, the holster you use should cover the trigger guard. That's going to keep your finger off the trigger until you've drawn it and at least out of the holster. When you draw your pistol, you've got to keep your finger outside the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot. Having an external safety will really only help if you get sloppy on either of those 2 points. And let's face it, folks, let's not get sloppy. Train right, practice right, carry right, and that external safety is a redundant feature. Let's talk a little bit about handgun sights. Now, if you've watched the channel for a while, you probably know I've had some pretty strong opinions on some manufacturers' handgun sights out there, and ultimately I landed on Trijicon HDs as the brand and model that I prefer for mine. When we're talking about using a handgun for self-defense, there's a strong likelihood that the conditions will be such that you never really get a sight picture. Either it's just occurring too close, or it's going too fast and your sights just might not play a part. This is kind of where the importance of training and practice and presentation techniques really are key, but that's really another video. There are kind of 3 main aspects, though, to consider when you're talking about sights. First, you got to think about how well do you acquire that front sight. The faster you can focus on the front sight, the faster you can put rounds on target. So you got to choose a sight that really catches your eye easily. I prefer my front sight to be orange. I think most people spot orange very rapidly. Some people like yellow as well. Orange for me really stands out against most background colors, and my eye is really drawn to it. So picking up that front sight's really, really key. Next up would be durability. I've had sights that provided a terrific sight picture, but kind of fell apart through normal concealed carry use. True Glow TFOs, to be specific, the fiber optic tubes in those things just kept falling out over time. I give them a quick redneck repair with some super glue, but that causes problems with my next point, and that's the glue was blocking the night sight. Night sights glow in the dark. I know it's controversial, right? Some sight systems operate by absorbing light from other sources, and that charges them up for a while. I think what's more common is to use a radioactive insert. I think the most common out there is a tritium insert that essentially makes the sight glow for like 7 to 10 years. It's radioactive. If you're going to carry a gun, I strongly suggest you either buy one that already has a good night sight installed, or have them installed before you carry it. If your sights only have white paint on it, it doesn't take much darkness to just completely make those impossible to see. Night sights are very important. I also prefer contrasting night sights. So that has your front sight glowing one color and your rear sights glowing another. I think my front is orange and the rears are yellow. If you've got all three are the same color, it's really easy in the dark, honestly, to misalign them. And it's interesting, you end up with the front sight actually to the right or to the left of your rears, and you don't even know it, particularly if you're under stress. So having the contrasting colors, I think, is a big feature. The gripping surface on a handgun is a pretty important feature for me as well. I've got small, relatively kind of weak hands, and so it can make hanging on to the gun a bit of a challenge. I got to be honest though, I haven't found many handguns, if any, maybe the F and X, where I could say the gripping surface was sufficient for me to feel confident. So I end up just putting Talon grips on all my guns. It's an inexpensive solution, under 20 bucks. They go on easy with a hairdryer. I'll put a link in the description below. I did a video on how to install them. It's a great product, and it solves the problem for me. I like the rubberized surface, not the sandpaper surface as much. Another feature that a lot of people are looking for on their handguns are slide serrations. That's these grooves on the back here, and you'll see manufacturers that put them up front here and all up and down the slide, or people that go and add them to their guns aftermarket, all that good stuff. And you know, if your process for manipulating the slide is to pull the slide back with your offhand, then slide serrations are very important. But a while back, Alex and I attended an NRA pistol instructor's course, and throughout the course he kept saying, boy, you guys love slingshot in your pistols. You know you're doing it wrong. And he was right, we were. A better way to manipulate your slide, and I've changed the way I do this, is you grip onto your slide with your offhand and hold the slide in place, and then use your strong hand on the pistol grip to push it away. So your action is this. Not this, but this. Now, where that really does help are for people with weaker hands. You'll see them, particularly new shooters, that have trouble manipulating the slide because they're trying to use their offhand to pull. You have a lot more power in your strong hand if you simply hold on to the slide and push forward. You can do all of your firearms manipulations that way. It's a much better way to do it, and it doesn't require all the crazy slide serrations. The next thing I wanted to talk about are the firearms action. You know, revolvers are really nice guns, but there's one reason that I discount them immediately from a concealed carry choice, and it's purely capacity. They're simple to operate and all of that good stuff, but it would be really hard to choose a gun that can only carry 6 or 7 rounds over something that can carry 15 or 17. The numbers don't add up for me. So I discount the revolver right away for that reason. And that really leaves us with two choices of semi-automatic handguns, and that's hammer fired or striker fired. How about things like modifying your gun, or changing factory parts out, or getting a trigger job done to lighten up the pull, that kind of thing? You know, I've heard both arguments on this subject. I've heard some folks with some very solid credentials in the self-defense community say that if you alter a factory gun, you lighten up the trigger or something like that, that that those facts could be used against you, manipulated and used against you in a court by the prosecutor in front of a jury and affect the outcome of a trial. I have no doubt that could be true. Of course, wearing your favorite manufacturer's swag shirt that day, maybe you're sporting your Nerd Gone South shirt on the day you have a defensive gun use, or your preference for tactical pants could do the same thing, honestly. If you get to the point where you have to go to court, anything about you or your behavior can be manipulated by the prosecutor. It's really part of the risk you're going to take when you decide to carry a gun. And I think gun alterations really, to me, it seems like the same thing. Does that stop me from making alterations to the gun? As long as the alteration doesn't increase my chance of shooting the gun when I shouldn't have, no, it doesn't stop me at all. My buddy Glenn works on all my Glock triggers. They enhance my accuracy a great deal. I shoot one of his triggers much better than the factory trigger. My rule of thumb is this: if it involves gunsmithing, if the change you want to make involves gunsmithing, have a smith do the work. When you talk to him, tell the smith how you intend to use the firearm. If you're asking for a 2-pound trigger pull on your M&P and you intend to carry that for self-defense, you better expect the gunsmith to go, no, I'm not doing that work. And he rightly should refuse to do that work. That being said, most of the mainstream guns out there can be shot accurately without modification. It just takes more practice. A factory Glock trigger takes longer to learn to shoot accurately than when my buddy Glenn does, and it was a bit of a shortcut, and I took it. It doesn't worry me. I promised I would talk about off-body carry, so let's do that. And by off-body carry, we're talking about carrying in a briefcase or a handbag, and just not attached to your body, and that does affect the choice of handgun. I mean, if you're going to carry in a briefcase, you can get the highest capacity thing you can possibly find. But something to keep in mind there: defenders are always behind. It's the nature of one person responding to the actions of another. The general advice that you're going to hear in self-defense gun use is you've got a maximum of 2 seconds to get your gun out and put rounds on target. I've spent a non-trivial amount of time practicing with a timer to make sure I'm under that 2 seconds. .9. .174. .8. 199. $198. $179. Yes. So if you choose to carry off body, you've got to practice the way you carry. You need to practice enough so that you were able to draw, hit your target, and do so as fast as possible. Right? That's everyone's responsibility. It's even more important with off body. You start out in last place. That's where you're at. If you find that even with training and practice that the 2-second goal is a pipe dream, I would consider a different carry method. With my gun at the 3 o'clock position, for me, it takes on average 1.75 seconds to clear my garment, draw, and get my first round on target. I can't imagine moving to an off-body carry and being able to keep up the draw under 2 seconds. I just can't see me doing it. So, it's really hard to recommend that to others. Okay, folks, there you go. Wow, I really enjoy doing these videos. I like the process of thinking through this a lot. I know it was a lot of me talking, but I hope there was useful information for you. Like you, I'm still learning, and I don't think you ever stop learning on a subject that is this intricate and involved. These are my opinions, and I try and arrive at them logically. I try and find the facts and form solid opinions that make sense. I try not to say things, well, that's the way I like it. I hope I've backed them up with good logic for you. In the end, you got to do what works for you, and take or leave anyone's opinion for what it is, one person's opinion. Yeah, there you go. Hey, I want to thank my friend Tina, who sort of gave me the inspiration to do these 3 videos. I can't wait to hear from you when you buy your first gun and start going out and shooting. All right, folks, there you go. Always remember, anyone can shoot and have fun. We'll see you next time.